How much do you spend on textbooks per semester?
Depends on the semester, but I would guess around $300 to max $600.
Yeah, I would say like 300 to 400 probably.
How much is too much?
I think, what was it? I remember a student telling me that he was in a history class, and I think the textbook was like $500. Ridiculous. Even for like an opcode. It's one tiny little line on a piece of paper for just one opcode, and that creates a $500 textbook, which is really ridiculous.
Yeah, I feel like anything, like I feel like if I pay more than $500 in a semester, I feel like that's a lot. But I also feel like we're a little biased perhaps because we're kind of used to textbooks being expensive, so maybe we're giving the textbooks a bit too much credit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Plus, everything is going forward to being online. I would definitely more enjoy paying like a little bit of money, like kind of like a rent. Like every month, you just pay a little bit for the textbook you have to use online, and then once you're done, you're done. You don't have to figure out, okay, well, how am I going to sell this textbook? Who's going to want this textbook? Oh wait, no one wants it because the professors decide to not use the textbook anymore.
One of my friends pointed out that what's really ironic is environmental science textbooks.
So in my environmental class, I've only had ebooks this semester, which is refreshing. That's because I have a professor who's actually worked in conservation and NGOs. Anyway, I'm not the one getting interviewed. Do you consider the cost of textbooks when you register for classes?
I should, but I don't.
I personally don't. It's not too much of a financial burden on me. So not for me personally, but I'm pretty sure other students do.
How do you prioritize your readings? / do you do your readings?
Depends on the class, to be absolutely honest. Some classes, they focus heavily on you learning the material through the textbook, and so it is more beneficial to buy the textbook and read it. There are some where it's more of like a light suggestion kind of textbook where you don't necessarily need it. Any of the information isn't going to be on the final exam. It's one thing if I'm interested in the textbook or I'm interested in the text, but it's another thing if it's not going to be used in class, it's a light suggestion, and it's not on the final exam. I probably wouldn't even bother to buy it.
I feel like for me, with most of my science classes, I try to read the relevant chapters at least before the exam. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. At least one of my classes, we're really encouraged to do the readings because we have participation quizzes, so in that case I'm pretty good with the readings. I feel like I've had a few science classes where I bought the textbook and I didn't really use it that much. I think maybe for my ecology and evolution class especially, I might have before an exam maybe looked over some material, but I wouldn't like preemptively read the chapter like before class or something like that.
How many of your required textbooks do you buy?
I think I buy all of them.
I usually wait the first week, kind of get a feel of the syllabus and the professor, and then I will buy the books that I think are necessary. So, for instance, I think one class, he suggested 5 textbooks. I only got 3.
When do you buy your textbooks?
I think within the first week of school. I generally buy mine at the bookstore. I think I've always bought all of mine at the bookstore.
If they're really, really expensive, I always, like, over $100, I always try to rent them. Like, always, because it's just so much cheaper, and I'm not going to need it afterwards. Especially if it's, like, a math textbook. The stats textbook is very expensive, and I'm not really going to use it again afterwards, so I'm renting it right now.
How much reading do you think you should have per course?
Per week?
Sure.
I feel like the amount of reading has to be balanced with what other things you're doing in the class, in the format of the class. I feel like it really depends. So like for me, for organic chemistry, the reading isn't required, but it's like heavily encouraged. And to actually get the material, I find like I do need to do the readings. Extra readings on top of other assignments is a lot, but I feel like it really depends on the class.
Reading assignments are kind of hard because as someone, I'm a very slow reader, so usually when they give the recommended time of like how long this should take to read, I'm usually a little bit longer than that. Usually I think it just depends on how many pages, how dense the book is. I definitely agree, like it depends on if you have other stuff, like it would be super great if I didn't have to read a textbook and do a page, like a final page paper, and they're due next on the same day. But yeah, definitely like depending on the course load, because if it's a very light course load, I would definitely probably read the textbook. But